Sir.
It's 2007, and the United States is in the middle of an economic recession it hasn't experienced since the Great Depression. And a close family friend of mine named Philip decides to start a clothing business. Now you can see for obvious reasons how this was extremely risky. But the sad thing was that Philip was so bent on his company being a success that he didn't even encounter for the realistic alternative, which is what if your company isn't successful? It's a fair question. And when his company did in fact fall and he had to lose it, the economic hit he experienced was devastating. And right now, this is the vast majority of Americans. Americans are so ill-prepared for the possible crisis that may occur in the near future. And what I'm referring to is the economic crisis in Greece right now and the European bailout that's occurring over there. And as to why you should, so firstly I'll talk about the economic crisis in Greece. Firstly I'll talk to you about the history behind it, how Greece led up to the point and the current state they're in right now. Secondly, I'll talk to you about how Greece is affecting the Eurozone, which is a coalition of governments that nations that they belong to. And thirdly, I'll talk to you about the Syriza Party, which is the newly elected party that now leads the nation of Greece. So as to why you should listen to this speech, it's because whatever outcome results of Greece, it will directly affect all of Europe. And whether that be good or bad, and however Europe is affected, it will eventually affect the United States. And thus, it will eventually affect you. And so we need to be prepared for any possible outcome that may occur, especially if it's economically and financially. So it started in 2009, and that's when Greece really shocked many nations around the world, because that's when they announced that they wouldn't be able to pay back the large debts that they owed to several countries. Instead, Greece was filing for bankruptcy, and they announced that they would be seeking a bailout. And the initial reaction from several Eurozone countries was that of shock and panic, because a bailout was believed to compromise previous agreements within the Eurozone. But eventually, according to Franco Pavancello, who wrote an article, All for One, One for All in 2011, Greece was awarded a $110 billion bailout. And the first year, the bailout era, is really interesting to look at, because that's when Greece adopted a state of austerity. And the platform behind austerity is the government cuts any and all government spending unless it's seen as an absolute necessity. And when you're broke and you don't have any money to spend, almost nothing is seen as a necessity. And what results from austerity is unemployment rises, wages decrease, and taxes increase. And other government programs as healthcare are impacted, and everything's going downward. And that's because all of this money is trying to be soaked in by the government to go to this debt, this large debt that they owe. So it results in a lot of hardship for the citizens of this country and for the citizens of Greece as they experienced. And what that results in is a lot of people are angry because they're losing jobs, and those who have jobs aren't earning as much money, and so naturally you get protests and you get people who want change in their country. And as you can see in this picture, this is a picture of protesters on the streets. And so this is really where Greece has been from 2009 onward, and how their current state has been with the state of austerity. So now you have a little understanding of that and what austerity is. Now I want to talk to you about how Greece is affecting the Eurozone as a whole. And the Eurozone is a coalition of governments and nations all in Europe who all use the euro as a form of currency, hence the name Eurozone. And this includes nations such as Germany, Italy, France, Spain, and Portugal. Now, right now, Greece has received 2 bailouts from the European Union, and they're on pace to receive a 3rd bailout if things go as planned. However, Greece is currently trying to argue for a new program to be installed, to be implemented, that would be more beneficial to them. The problem is that Germany, the most well-off member of the Eurozone, thus the member who has lent a lot of money to these Greece bailouts, is currently, and to put it in simple terms, they're saying, wait a second, you owe us a lot of money. It's about time we start seeing some of that back. It's about time we start being reimbursed. Whereas Greece is kind of saying, okay, give us a second. We kind of want to be on stable ground, and we want to get our economy running so we have something to pay you back with, because we received 2 bailouts so far, and our economic situation is hardly any better than it was in 2009. So what's to say that a 3rd bailout would improve anything? It's sort of that insanity approach, right? So you can see where these two sides are clashing altogether, and what this is causing is a lot of people in Europe are afraid that Greece may withdraw its membership from the Eurozone altogether. And if they were to do that, this results in sort of a domino effect where suddenly Greece were to withdraw its support from the Eurozone. And if they were to do that, they would no longer use the euro as a form of currency. Thus, a lot of the, or all of the debt that they have acquired would be relieved, and this suddenly becomes a possible and attractive alternative to other less well-off countries in the Eurozone, such as Portugal, such as Italy, and such as Spain, who might begin to take this as an alternative. And so thus you have the domino effect. Greece falls out, then falls Portugal and Spain, and naturally, or gradually altogether, the Eurozone might dismantle, and with it the euro. And if that were to occur, Greece is really in limbo right now, and all those countries might be on their own. But this isn't the first time the domino effect has occurred. It was around the same time that Greece announced they'd be seeking a bailout, that they began taking out loans of millions of dollars from the EBC, the European Central Bank. And shortly afterward, other nations started following. Again, those lesser well-off countries, Portugal, Ireland, and Spain, began borrowing money. So you see where economists have this pre-notion and this already evidence that, yes, Greece does impact how the Eurozone is affected, and they do impact how these other European countries really go about their business, and they look at Greece, or these less well-off countries at least look at Greece as a first step, that Greece did it, maybe we should too, because we're all struggling. And this is according to economists, one such as Norio Rubini, who wrote an article on the potential fallout of the Eurozone in 2010. But keep in mind that all these actions that Greece has been taking was from 2009 onward, when New Democracy was in charge of Greece's Hellenic Parliament. Now, there was just a new party who was voted in the Hellenic Party, and that's the Syriza Party. And this party is led by Alexis Tsipras, who you can't really see him in this picture because his back is turned, but this is a picture of him on election day when the Syriza Party won the majority vote in the Hellenic Parliament, and all those red flags are their flags being waved around. And right now, Tsipras, the Syriza Party, and one of their party members, who's also the new Greek finance minister, Yanis Varoufakis, pronounce his name, they are currently arguing and negotiating a new plan to be installed for Greece, one that would allow Greece to grow from its economic depression. And this is according to John Barry, who's an investigative, who's been covering the crisis in Greece and who wrote an article just this year about it. So they're trying to form this new plan, and the concept that this new plan will revolve around would be something known as debt relief. And the idea of debt relief is really, Greece is going to look at these other nations they owe money to, and they're going to tell them, essentially, let's say Greece owes $80 million to a country. They want this other country they owe debt to, out of the goodness of their hearts, you could say, to let's knock off $30 million of that debt, so now we only owe you $50 million. And this is similar to what credit cards companies sometimes do with individuals who can't pay their entire debt. They set a realistic goal. So if you can't pay us the $80 million, you'll pay us $50, and at least you pay us something, because that's a realistic goal we can set. Moreover, Greece, Tsipras, and the Syriza Party, they want a grace period from the Eurozone, because as of now, larger Eurozone countries, better well-off countries such as Germany and France, have kind of been that bullying cousin behind them who says, oh, you got $1, you got to give it to us because you owe us $50. So Greece's main focus has been paying off their debt, and the Syriza Party really wants a chance to step back, invest in their own economy, and if they can invest in their own economy, they will grow, and if they grow, they begin to gain revenue, and with that, you can knock off two birds with one stone, where their economy begins to grow, and they could pay off the debt of those countries that they owe to. So again, this is all important because whatever results in Greece will eventually down the line affect the United States, and nobody's going to be going to you individually and saying, oh, a crisis may occur or it may not occur, and you should prepare, or maybe you shouldn't prepare. So it's important to be aware of all the issues that are going around in the world and how it may or may not affect you. So again, I talked about the European crisis in Greece, Firstly, I talked to you about a little history about how Greece got to the current state they're in today. Secondly, I talked to you about how Greece has impacted the entire Eurozone. And thirdly, I talked to you about the Syriza Party, which is the party that is heading Greece in their goals. Thank you all very much.